In just the past week or so, I think I've realised that the Dawn Trail release hype is well and truly over for me. I had my fun. On the whole, I've really enjoyed most of the offerings we've received in terms of content this expansion, and I've settled well and truly back into my comfortable routine of logging in a couple of evenings a week. Then, something happened that changed all that. That goddamn live letter for patch 7.1. I was expecting the dungeon and Sphene Extreme, making her even more spherical than ever before. I was expecting Future's rewritten Ultimate. I was expecting the Final Fantasy XI themed Alliance raid, and I was expecting all the miscellaneous side content in between that was confirmed. What I was not expecting was not only a confirmation of that nebulous 24-man Savage content that was rumoured a little while back with no real tangible details, nor was I expecting it to be locked in for this upcoming winter patch and actually looking kind of awesome. In a lot of ways, it reminds me quite a lot of how I felt about the introduction of Criterion Dungeons last expansion. The opportunity for something new, a twist on old types of challenges that could be somebody's new favourite piece of endgame content. I'm always for more things to do at endgame, especially when they provide both lateral challenges and progression to Savage content, which it seems like there's a good chance this will do. But yeah, it's called the Chaotic Alliance Raid.
My mission is to kill chaos.
And the first one we'll be getting is an encounter focused on the Cloud of Darkness, and seems to drawing inspiration and mechanical motifs not only from the original World of Darkness final boss, but also from the other fights in that Alliance raid, as well as the Savage encounter that houses the Cloud of Darkness as well, E9S. We know that there are no trash mobs, and as far as we can tell from the scant information and live letter translation, it is a singular fight, rather than a full series of battles that fully emulates the original 24-man raid. To me, this is actually great, because I'd much rather have one new, really interesting and satisfying encounter than 4 to 5 half-arsed ones. Let's look at the translation of the live letter segment really quick, because there are some very interesting little tidbits here. Then we're going to discuss what mechanics we can likely expect from the Cloud of Darkness Chaotic Alliance raid, as well as which future ones I'm really excited to see adapted further down the road. Firstly, on difficulty, Yoshida stated that they initially wanted it to have a similar feel to Extreme, but then the developer Mr. Osma said, oopsie, it turned a little bit more savage than extreme. Masaki Nakagawa, often dubbed Mr. Osma, is Final Fantasy XIV's lead battle content designer, and took the helm for many of my personal favourite fights, including Dragon Song's Reprise, and is usually known for being more than happy to throw difficult mechanics at players, expecting them to adapt and overcome. Him taking point on this new foray into large-scale difficult content is absolutely a good thing, as far as I'm concerned, because of his heavy experience, resulting in knowing what players expect, allowing him to hopefully focus on subverting those expectations in an exciting way. But also, more than that, my hope is that he won't leash himself in designing this fight, as the live letter suggests, and we won't see excessive over-tutorialization, leading to less meat in the encounter. It is stated that it isn't quite on the level of a 4th turn of Savage, which does however mean it might be equivalent to a 2nd or 3rd turn, which is kind of where I'm expecting it to end up falling in terms of difficulty, learning curve, and expected progression length. I actually have a fun little Mr. Osma anecdote for you randomly. Well, fun for you, soul-crushing for me. I'm a bit of a fan, right? Honestly, I'd love to have a sit-down or interview with him one day and just yap about FF14 fight design. For many, many months, there was this guy following me on Twitter who had the same name as him, and they happened to follow me. And they even seemingly had watched at least a few of my videos because they'd replied a couple of times to me posting them. Turns out, that was actually him and not the fake account that I assumed it was, and I just didn't reply because I had assumed it was a fake account. My honest thoughts were that there was no way on earth the real Mr. Osma would have, number 1, a Twitter account, number 2, a passing interest in what I had to say, or honestly, even a clue that I existed. And ever since I discovered it was a real account and I dono-walled him and completely ignored at least one of his replies, I've been absolutely mortified. But the other quote I want to bring up and discuss is the one where they mention the reward structure for the Chaotic Alliance raid. Yoshida makes a note that it is a changed reward system that does give incentive to repeatedly clear and help out, and also that there are unique rewards for this one. What could this mean? What are these unique rewards that incentivize multiple clears and helping first-timers through? My guess is that it's one of a few potential options. Firstly is the ever-present Leviathan in the depths waiting to rear its head whenever they need to insert a drop into something ever. Upgrade items. With this being an odd patch, we'll start getting additional routes to obtain Tombstone gear upgrade items weekly from the standard Alliance raid, and uncapped through hunts. Maybe this is a new uncapped method of farming them. That's a bit boring though. What I'd like more is either a unique set of gear, which could be as simple as reskinning the old World of Darkness gear up to a relevant Tombstone equivalent item level and offering it as an uncapped and ideally upgradable path to the current maximum of 730. That would be nice. Or most of all, and my hopes whenever we get new styles of content thrown into the mix, as well as my biggest disappointment with Endwalker's Criterions, is that we get a wealth of rewards that incentivize all types of players to actually try the content beyond just the gearing cycle, throwing in an obtainable mount, minion, title, and that farmable gearing path, as well as maybe some unique glamour or housing would be a fantastic way to keep you coming back for more, and the token system that runs rampant through the rest of the game can act as a kind of bad RNG protection to ensure that you actually get everything you want, assuming you're willing to farm it a handful of times. Whatever happens, I'm locked into that next live letter to see what we're actually getting in terms of prizes. We might get something comparable to Delubrum Regine Savage in that regard, but with more alluring rewards. We got a screenshot that shows off one of the mechanics though, so let's break that down. Firstly, we can see the PvP platforms from E9S adorning the center of the room, and if you don't remember them, on those platforms are enumeration towers, and assuming that it's structured the same way behind the boss as it is in front of the boss, those enumeration towers total 12 players overall. 4 towers that require 2 players apiece, and you can notice that these towers in particular are spread across multiple platform tiles to make them manageable with the same rules that exist in the E9S iteration, and then likely 4 single-player towers. The very structure and layout of those tiles actually works for having that number of players moving around and making room for one another on them too, as well as for another reason I'll get into soon. Then we will see a rock platform on the south, and we can expect another on the north side of the room. Each of these has 2 enumeration towers requiring 3 players, which would make for a full 24. There we have it. Each player needs to be in a tower soak, and we can see where they all are and how to resolve them. Based on the boss stance, animation, and general structure of the arena itself, I expect that either before or after this, there will be some component of the mechanic expecting players to stand in clouds to slow them down and kill them, which is another mechanic present in both the original Alliance and in E9S. This feels like a fitting place, and if it doesn't occur here, we'll 100% be getting them somewhere else in the fight. Then we can see 2 clones of the E9S Cloud of Darkness, as well as 2 Otomos seemingly targeting one of them. Now this part I'm not 100% sure on. They could just be targeting the floor for a suck in and knock away, but I don't really think so. I think it's actually more likely that they're going to be sucking up one of those Clouds of Darknesses based on whichever one they target, and spitting it out either in a new quadrant of the arena or with a new rotation, and that the cloud clones will then do either the half rooms rendering 1/4 of the battlefield safe, or will cleave in sequence, meaning that one half will be safe and then the other half. The latter is likely the more interesting option, because I can see a mechanic where the tile players need to shuffle and make room, making use of those corners I mentioned to fit into half of the arena to avoid the cleave. Then enumeration towers will go off, and then you'll need to deal with the spat out clones cleave afterwards by shuffling once more to avoid this new threat. This comes across as a pretty satisfying concept to me, and seems fun to do. The Otomos are particularly intriguing because they aren't present in either of the original encounters. This is why I said I have a feeling we may see a few more mechanics, or at least components of mechanics, pulled in from other encounters within World of Darkness, or potentially the entire Realm Reborn 24-man series. Pretty exciting to me. There's a whole host of additional mechanics that are clearly going to make some kind of an appearance. Wide angle and anti-air are 100% going to be there in some form. And that mechanic from E9S, where multiple boss clones cleave half rooms at once, leaving only a single pizza slice of the arena safe, that's going to show up too, or based on the screenshot, maybe it already has. From World of Darkness, that mechanic that everybody seemingly gets hit by, where the boss leaves and reappears at another position, following it up almost immediately with a huge line AoE. That's also for sure happening, and I would not be surprised to see multiple at once, leaving much more reduced safe spots or chaser AoEs to occur at the same time, cutting swathes of unsafe space that other players need to avoid. Obscure woods and the brambles and tethers that result from it are for sure going to happen at least once or twice as well, and the mechanic, which has certain players shooting conal AoEs in their field of vision, forcing them to look away from other players to avoid an unfortunate event. Another mechanic that's very similar are the shadow lurkers, snakeheads, which you've never even seen if you started this game after 2016 or so, because they just get skipped in World of Darkness every single time nowadays. They spawn and need to be attacked to prevent them from casting bad breath. My expectation is that you won't be able to prevent the bad breaths in Chaotic, and that it will instead be comboed with another mechanic and you'll need to find the safe spot. Oh, Art of Darkness too, that's also going to happen for sure. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to do the content, but more so than the Cloud of Darkness Chaotic Alliance raid, I'm eagerly anticipating the idea of more. Diabolos? Sold. I know if they do one based on the Stormblood Alliance raids, we'll be getting Ultima the High Seraph, but instead, how about some Thunder God? Even the Endwalker Alliance raid is a pretty alluring concept to me because the final boss of that series was so peak aesthetically, but in terms of the actual mechanics, it completely fell flat as far as I'm concerned. The developers getting a second try and making a nuanced and full fight out of these amazing concepts and aesthetics actually has me really pumped. I hope they nail it, because getting one or two of these per expansion and having them be fun would just be a fantastic addition to FF14's endgame. What are your thoughts on the potential of the Chaotic Alliance raids? Please do let me know in the comments, and no matter how things turn out, we won't have to wait too long to find out more, as we'll be expecting information in the next live letter, which happens in just a few weeks. We should be getting more details on the loot system, and we might even get a bit of in-game footage as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.